Hello, welcome to PlayStation Access and welcome back to the Tuesday Checklist, our weekly video where we take a look at recent or upcoming games and then go off on wild tangents about completely unrelated things. This week all our attention is on Spyro the Dragon, however, with the reignited trilogy out literally right now. This got us thinking about our favourite unlikely heroes, you know, protagonists you take one look at and instantly think, you've got no chance, but that, in the end, beat the odds, beat the baddies, and save the day. And obviously, we have to start with everyone's favourite purple dragon. So, a very unlikely hero who you would look at initially and think, how are they going to save the world, is of course Spyro the Dragon. You first play Spyro, and the reason he's sort of like unwillingly thrust into this role of hero, he's not like, you know, he's not like Crash Bandicoot, who is, I'm trying to think, in Crash Bandicoot's world, Crash Bandicoot is like the main guy. You know, it's like, it's something. What I'm trying to say is, you know, in Metal Gear Solid, Solid Snake is a spy, and his job is doing that thing. Yeah. Crash Bandicoot's job is being a bandicoot and jumping around and collecting all stuff. Spyro, it's not in his nature, it's not his role within that world that he lives in to be like the heroic saviour of the dragon people. Yeah. So at the start of Spyro the Dragon, for those of you who don't know, Nasty Gnorc, Ganasty Gnorc, with silent G, he comes down and he casts a spell to take over the Dragon Kingdom, and it turns all of the dragons into crystal and imprisons them in crystal. Right. But for some reason, this spell isn't an area of effect spell, or it is, but it has like a height limit on it. So the spell goes and it like hits dragons sort of like in the chest area, and this spell just flies around all over the place. But Spyro is a little dragon, and the spell just goes over his head. So he's the only dragon who is not turned into crystal, and so it just becomes his job to free. He is the last dragon.
See, now interestingly, Spyro, because I know we've already talked about Spyro stuff, but interestingly, Spyro was originally a large green dragon.
Really?
In the original concept art, he was an adult dragon. Oh, so maybe they were like, how are we going to get around this spell hitting every dragon?
Okay, well that would
like made him tiny.
Well, I'm glad they chose to make him a small purple one, otherwise I'd have to think of something else to talk about in this video. But Spyro the Dragon then, all of a sudden, he's the last remaining dragon. It's up to him not only to free however many hundreds of dragons there are in the original Spyro, free them all from their crystal prisons, but he also has to defeat all of Nasty Gnorc's henchmen across all the worlds, and he's just a tiny little kid dragon. Yeah. All he can do is charge around with his horns and breathe his fire. I mean, breathing fire is an advantage. It is an advantage, yes, but still, it turns out he's a badass dragon, and he's totally capable of doing all of that.
I haven't played Spyro, so when he rescues a dragon,
have you not?
No, he doesn't join. The adult dragons don't join in the fight.
I did just think about that, like, you know, he's a kid basically. He's a little tiny dragon, and going up against. Once he started freeing the big strong dragons, help then! Come and help us in the fight against Nasty Gnorc. Yeah. But no, they just, thank you for releasing me, and then they just go off home.
Yeah, back to the office. Back to the dragon office.
Continue.
We've got to pay the mortgage, Spyro. You carry on, you seem to be doing alright.
Continue
boring adult problems.
Defeating all of Nasty Gnorc's henchmen. Some of these henchmen, you played it on stage at EGX, Dave. Yeah. They've got like metal armour on. Yeah. They've got shields, they've got swords, there's wizards shooting magic at you, there's like boss ones.
And machine gun. When I was playing recently, one of the bloody machine gun.
Wow. That seems unfair.
At least Spyro has an accomplice, although it's a small bug.
It's
Sparks.
Yeah.
Sparks the dragonfly.
Yeah.
Yeah, he does have that.
Who do you think's the more unlikely hero? Spyro or Sparks?
I mean, Sparks isn't a hero.
Hang on.
He's a sidekick.
He hangs around with the hero.
I think a sidekick should get a bit of more.
He's not even a sidekick, he's a life bar. He's a glorified life bar.
He is literally a life bar.
Yeah.
He just changes colours when he hits you.
Well, why don't the adults all have life bars as well? But I've got a lot of questions.
We're getting too deep into it now, Dave, I think. Just little dragon, cute little dragon.
Yeah.
Save the world, please. And he does it. Well done, Spyro.
Yeah.
So an unlikely hero for me is from a series that I love, and I have mentioned before, but it's the Prince of the Cosmos.
Oh, from
Katamari!
Thingy. Yeah.
I love it
wow.
when we do these and I pick them and you both laugh. This is so much fun. I'm so glad.
It's the game where you just like roll everything up in a big ball, right?
Exactly. So your dad is the king of the cosmos.
Yes.
He's suave, he's hip thrusting, he's got all the coolness in the world. And then you're the prince. You're like a little green triangle. Your dad is like this super cool thing, being a badass, making everything look cool. And then you're just down here like triangling.
Yeah.
Like living your tiny, tiny life.
Yes.
So
Are
for
we
the-
still talking about me?
We are, here you are. And the first game, for example, your dad gets a bit drunk and then just erases all the stars.
Right.
Like all of them.
That's an issue.
And he's like, Prince, make new stars. So all of a sudden you're tasked with like putting all the stars back in the universe.
Wow.
And you're just like, I'm just a little triangle. I'm just waiting to inherit my throne. I'm just the prince of the cosmos. And now all of a sudden I've been granted a Katamari. So the Katamari is the ball itself. I believe it means sticky ball.
Okay, good.
Like, you know,
Yeah.
and it's your job then to just roll things up.
So does he go and roll up some stars? What happened?
He rolls up stuff.
Yeah.
So, like stuff, anything in the room until he gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So the king of the cosmos will be like, you need to roll a Katamari that is 3 meters big.
Yes.
So he'll just keep rolling until it's eventually 3 meters big.
Yeah.
And then your dad will be like, well done, this is a boss Katamari.
Is it only in inanimate objects? Do
No,
people
you've
get
got,
stuck in
yeah.
them? Isn't that a bit
It's great, they
dark?
sort of squeal when you roll them up.
Rob, that feels like something you would like to do.
But to the point where at the end of the game, you roll up the universe.
Oh no.
Like all the planets and everything, and like you roll up constellations.
Oh my god.
So like you can start like really, really small, like rolling up paper clips, and
How
then
does this help get the stars back?
I don't know what that your dad just takes the Katamari and he makes it into a star.
Is the king of the cosmos still asking you at that point when you're rolling up constellations and stuff? Is the king like, no, okay, that's enough.
Stop now, stop.
the Katamari.
You've gone crazy with power. I
Is
don't
it
know.
like a rite of passage?
I think it's a rite of passage. You just have to prove that you're the best Katamari because the king wants the people to love him,
Yeah.
and because he's done this, you know, he's trying to fix it.
Yeah.
But he's not doing anything. He's just lying there in his leotard,
Yeah.
and he's making us do all the work.
Is it a leotard?
He's in spandex for sure.
Right. Okay.
He's really, really fancy.
I'd love
like a
anyone
cravat.
who had the power to roll me up onto a sticky ball but didn't. So, you know, it sounds like a bit of a tyrant, is what I'm saying.
He is
Like,
a bit of a
I
tyrant.
just want everyone to love me. Do you love me, don't you? You
roll
love
it,
me.
roll it.
Get the sticky ball.
Let's go, kids. But yeah, he's like just this little thing. You just trying to live your best life now, and now, you know, you're trying to roll up people and they're running away from you, and it's
It's an unlikely, yes, and also hero with a question mark.
yeah, but like if you don't, because you have to roll the Katamari in a certain time limit. Obviously, it's still a game. There are still mechanics.
Yeah.
But if you don't do it, then your dad shoots laser beams at you.
Oh god.
He like yells at you, turns it into stardust because it's not a very good, you know, it's not good enough.
Yeah.
And like shoots laser beams at you. It's a
Did you
really
become the
abusive
king?
relationship. You don't know.
Oh, I kind of hoped he was going to end up rolling him into a ball, and then you realise it was like a rite of passage, and all along you were the king.
And all about that, it was just about dethroning your father
He
and
was-
taking the kingdom for your own.
Or he was teaching you a lesson, like, it turns, you do have the power, son.
Na, 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 na.
Yeah. But instead it's just, no, it's really just about rolling things up in a ball.
I mean, don't overcomplicate it.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Katamari is brilliant in its own simplicity.
You've made me really want to play it.
You should really, really play it. It's very good.
My unlikely hero is also an old character from long ago. Probably from I think, my favourite PS1 game.
You have some obscure PS1 games, so I'm interested in
This is not obscure, but I don't think any of you guys have played it, and it's Abes Oddysee.
I have played it.
You have?
I have, yeah.
Did you play it when it came, like originally, or did you play the remaster?
No, I played the original on PS1. My
Right.
friend had it, and we used to go to his house and play it.
I loved that game. Like, I absolutely loved it. And I was so excited for the whole series. And I'm glad that it's coming back because I loved that game. I just said. And Abe, I think, is surely up there as the most unlikely of heroes.
Yes.
If you don't know, Abe is a slave, basically. He's like a slave labourer in a food manufacturing plant, which is like run and owned by these horrible gluckons, they're called, which are just cigar smoking like suits with heads. Like they're like just triangle. You can't even see their limbs because they're all inside like a suit, and they just are smoking cigars and are laughing to themselves about the amount of money they're making and the means that they're going to. They have like little underlings called sligs who are like kind of like, I think they're like slugs but on robotic legs. They're also not slugs because they've got kind of like a handy nosy proboscis thing. Anyway,
That's a
and
good word.
Madokans, Abe, he's a Madokan. They're just like slave labor in this food processing plant. And the start of the game is Abe is literally like mopping the floor when he discovers that the Glucken's evil plan for this like new they do this like dramatic board meeting which he like is peeking through the door at, where it's like a graph of like profits are down, and they have this like new idea for this brand new food which is gonna change their luck, and it turns out to be Madokans. And Abe sees this and he's like,
how are they going to make it if they're turning all their workers into food?
well, they seem to be having a bit of an industrial revolution, so I think, you know, the machines could take... I mean, they've got sligs walking around on robot legs. So he sees this board meeting and he's like, no, this is too much. And I'm not sure that he's even like, at first, like, I've got to stop this. He's just like, I've got to escape. I think they spot him, and so he's trying to escape. And but he's very downtrodden. I think he's dressed basically in pants.
It's a
I
loincloth,
can't
isn't
really.
it?
It's like a loincloth. Do you know what I mean? Like, he farts a lot, which is actually a game mechanic. And
Right.
I think that's the moment I realised I needed to buy this game. Is that you can press like, I think it's like L1 and one of the directions on the D-pad, and you can just make Abe fart at any time. I mean, are there any famous farting heroes that you can think of? Certainly not that you are in control of. He's got a terrible flatulence problem, but he turns it to his advantage. This is what a hero he is. He turns his farting into an advantage. And I used to love just walking around farting and making the other Madokans laugh. And yeah, he manages to turn it around. He becomes like this huge freedom fighter. I think it's really unexpected for Abe as well. Like, they start kind of like later in the game, or maybe in Abe's Exodus, which is the second game, he's like a kind of political figure for the Madokans because he rescued everybody. It turns out he's got this kind of hypnotic power that he can deploy on sligs, which is amazing because he can kind of chant and inhabit them, and then he can kill sligs in loads of different ways. Like, he can get them to shoot each other, he can make them walk off of cliffs, into meat grinders, that's a good one, into mines.
So it's brutal.
It is brutal. It's really surprisingly brutal, actually.
It seems
Not
like
to
something you would
any.
have played.
I've dabbled in it, but
That
never
makes sense,
really.
yeah.
It's really excellent, and Abe is incredibly likeable. All the Madokans are really likeable, and unfortunately they're sometimes kind of collateral damage.
I was about to say, sometimes they're just so stupid, you're like, well, it's your own fault now.
Yeah,
I've tried.
it's like, do you know
Okay,
what?
I'm sorry, I've tried. You're going to die, and this is evolution happening.
Definitely. There's also bits where the game kind of punishes you a little bit. Like one of the early levels, you just come across a lever and you pull the lever and the Madokan is on the trapdoor and he just falls to his death. you don't realise it. And they're like,
Sometimes you've got to learn the hard
you
way.
shouldn't pull every lever.
No, not every lever is good.
But Abe, he's amazing. I don't know if I've explained why he's so unlikely as a hero, but he comes from nowhere. He sees wrong. Exactly, a slave in a loincloth, armed only with... He doesn't ever hurt anybody, can't attack anybody. He can chant and inhabit sligs.
And fart.
He can fart, but they're not vile enough to do any damage.
So my unlikely hero, I don't know if I'm cheating on this one, but my one is the kid from Inside. The small boy.
Yeah, good one.
Because that when Rob told me the title for this Tuesday feature, that is the one I thought of, because I mean the thing is, the whole of Inside, if you don't know it, the whole of Inside is set up to make you feel this way anyway. So you are it's kind of a black and white side-scrolling game, but it's incredibly inventive, and you play as a small boy, and you're in this kind of weird, it turns out to be quite a strange sci-fi world. The first hints of it are that you're just being chased through the wood by kind of like military kind of authority figures, so you kind of it put me in mind immediately of kind of like mid 20th century kind of, you know, either World War II or like totalitarian Russia, or, you know what I mean, like just a regime of some kind, and you're kind of running away and you're a kid, so like you know, all of the kind of forces of the adult world being kind of set against you, and like that's kind of what I thought of immediately, this really powerless hero. And then as the game goes on, it gets stranger and stranger, and you realise that maybe the whole world has been turned into some kind of weird industrialised, zombified like dystopia, and you are completely, you feel powerless against it. All you have is kind of like a puzzling ability. You can like solve, all the game gives you to do is creative, inventive puzzles that allow you to progress further, but you don't really have a sense of where you're going or what you're trying to achieve. And the real key thing is the presentation of your character in the animation and in the feel of the character, and they don't have like a huge scope of things to get this across. It's like it's 2D side scrolling. There is like a 3D element to the animation and the shading and everything, but you're basically, you know, like a shape that moves sideways across the screen. There's no talking, you can't really see any facial expressions, but just in the body language and in the fluidity of the movements, also like the body proportion, like it's kind of quite realistic style. Your head is quite, you know, you have the proportions of a child. And there's something about seeing like a kid run at full tilt with his head is bigger than like it would be on an adult. You know, he's not like heroically, you know, sprinting to get safe or whatever. Like this kid is kind of almost tottering, almost like top heavy. So I think it retains this sense of vulnerability all the way through until the end, which is just crazy, and we won't talk about it. I know Rob is still to get there.
Rob hasn't got there yet.
And it's worth preserving. And also you guys out there might not have got there either. And it's really, really worth playing. But yeah, in terms of a sense of like a hopeless situation, really well drawn hero who doesn't have a chance. I'm not sure if he did or not even. And I finished it.
Well, I've read some theories now that you should read, but which I obviously won't mention now. But also, just when you were talking there, I realised that it's a 3D world, but he can only move in a 2D plane, like you said. But his enemies can move. They can come.
There are some shocking moments, aren't there?
Yeah, and that's like another element of vulnerability, really, where you can't do that. That's something you can't do.
Yeah, it uses almost like the limitation of the format to present like another kind of danger.
It's dogs, man.
Oh yeah, dogs so fast.
I know.
Running around fences and things.
I mean, it's different to what we're talking about, but like that, like you told me, Rob, and I played it on your recommendation. It puts you into situations where.
So I've recommended this game to both of you, and yet you've both finished it and I haven't.
It's like 4 hours long. But it puts you again and again into situations where you kind of feel like this incredible kind of threat and alarm, but the game is good enough and intuitive enough that there's a good chance. I never felt like, because the same team made Limbo, and you know, like I didn't finish Limbo, and Limbo it felt was just more brutal. Like you'd walk along and a spider would like impale your head, and you'd be like, oh, I'm dead then. It was like much more trial and error. This time I felt like I could the world made sense to me and was clear enough that I could get out of most of those alarming first time situations where something was chasing me or whatever.
Yeah.
And it gave them all, it meant that the next one, like I didn't just go, I'll just die and see what I have to do. It was like I was trying to get out of every one felt much more kind of in the balance and alive.
And it's much more horrible to die in, like it is in Limbo, like as well. It's not just, it's really something you don't, you know, I felt it every time. It wasn't just like, oh, I'll do that again.
Yeah, when it feels like death is part of the progression, then each death, I think, it's going to be less meaningful because of that. But yeah, I did not like being killed in that game. Yeah, what an incredible thing, and what an incredible kind of squeezing that much personality into that kid was amazing.
Yeah.
I'm still in the market for a brand new PlayStation 4 Katamari game. So if Namco could just do
Wink,
exactly
wink.
as I asked,
Nudge, nudge.
that would
Come
just
on,
be
guys.
great. I worked on the Vita one.
Yeah?
That's when I met you guys.
I remember.
Yeah, you came to film at the PlayStation Vita rooms.
I remember.
And I was there with Namco showing off Touch My Katamari. Touch my sticky ball.
So what can you tell us about this game, Holly? Well, you are an unlikely hero.
Let me set the scene. You're an unlikely hero, small green triangle. Dad's in a leotard, probably drunk. Get rolling, boy.
Yeah.
There you go, Katamari.
Several years later, here we are.
Prince of the Cosmos, my unlikely hero.
We've come full circle.
See you did there.
It's like we've all been rolled up by the big sticky ball of fate, isn't it? Let us know in the comments who your favourite unlikely hero is, and if you're planning on playing Spyro all week like us. Give us a like if you enjoyed the video, and hit the notification bell to make sure you never miss another Tuesday checklist. See you next week.
For the players.